Welcome, dear brave soul. You're tuning into Horror Podcast, and I'm truly grateful you're here. Whether you're a long-time listener or just stumbled upon this channel, thank you for joining me for another scary tale. If you enjoy these stories, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and means more than you know. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from, what brought you here, or even what kind of story you'd like to hear next. Your support keeps this channel going, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Now, let's get into today's horror story. This happened when I was 4, during my family's first trip to the United States. We had come from Merida, Mexico, to visit relatives in Houston for a couple of weeks. Everything felt massive to me. Highways like rivers of cars, cold air, conditioning in every building, the strange hum of English everywhere. It was 2015, early spring. I don't remember a lot from that trip, but this day stayed with me in a way I can't forget. My name is Javier, though back then everyone called me Javi. We went to Walmart that afternoon because my dad wanted to pick up snacks for the drive to San Antonio the next morning. I remember the parking lot, how big it felt, like a field, and the way my sneakers squeaked a little when I walked on the white floor just past the entrance. It was my first time inside a store like that. The colors, the rows of toys, the blinking price signs. It was overwhelming in a weirdly exciting way. I don't remember what aisle we were in exactly, but I think it was somewhere near the back. My mom was comparing toothpaste brands, and my dad had wandered off to find tortilla chips. At some point, my mom bent down and told me in Spanish, "Ve con tu papa." Go with your dad. I nodded and walked off in the direction I thought he had gone. That was the last moment everything felt normal. I didn't see him. The aisle was crowded, and I kept walking, thinking maybe he had gone around the corner. Then I turned again. Still nothing. I stopped near a shelf of towels and looked around, trying not to panic. I was small for my age, and everyone around me felt like walking trees. My hand tightened around a small toy car I'd been carrying since we got there. I thought about going back to my mom, but the direction was fuzzy in my head now. All the aisles started to look the same. That's when she approached me. She looked like any other person in the store. Maybe in her early 30s, brown hair, light skin, a green hoodie. She knelt down and asked me something in English, but I didn't understand it. I told her in Spanish that I was looking for my dad. She nodded like she understood and pointed ahead, speaking slowly, like people do when they assume you're too young or too foreign to get it. Then she offered her hand. I took it. I remember the way her palm felt, dry, cold, but not tight. She didn't drag me. She walked beside me like we were going somewhere together, like this was normal. We passed through a few aisles. I expected to see my dad at any moment, but we kept walking. Then we turned away from the grocery side, then past electronics, then toward the front doors. I don't remember anyone stopping us. I don't remember anyone asking questions. She walked me right out of the store. We got into a car, a silver sedan, older, with a big green blanket on the back seat. I sat there quietly. She buckled me in and told me something in a soft voice, but I only caught one word, home. I thought she meant she was taking me back to my home. She drove for a long time. The sun dipped low outside, and the car felt colder the farther we went. I didn't know the roads. I didn't recognize the signs. Eventually, we pulled into a quiet neighborhood. Rows of one-story houses, most of them with cracked driveways and cars parked on the grass. Her house was small and dim. It smelled like carpet that had never been fully cleaned. She took off her shoes, told me to do the same. I did. She handed me a juice box and turned on the TV, some cartoon in English. I didn't understand any of it. She didn't lock me up. She didn't yell or hit me. She just kept me. The first night, I sat on the couch, hugging my knees. She gave me a blanket and told me, again, something that ended with okay. I nodded, even though I didn't understand. I tried to stay awake, thinking maybe my dad would knock on the door or the police would show up. I don't know when I drifted off, But I remember waking up with the TV still playing and her sitting in a chair nearby, staring. She fed me cereal in the morning, let me color on printer paper with dried out markers. She had an old tablet that barely worked, and she let me press buttons on it while she watched me from the kitchen. Sometimes she stared for too long, not in a mean way, just distant, like she was somewhere else in her head. I asked once about my parents. I said, "Donde está mi mama?" And she just shook her head and said, "No mama, stay." I didn't cry until the second night. That's when it really hit me that no one knew where I was. That this wasn't just some strange adult helping me find my family. That I was gone. But even then, she didn't lose her temper. She brought me a pillow, tucked it behind my head. She sat next to the couch, watching me like I might break. She didn't smile. She didn't comfort me either. She just sat there. By the third day, she let me walk around the house more. There were magazines stacked by the fridge and drawings of little kids on the walls. I asked, "Tus hijos?" She looked at me and whispered something like, "Used to be." She didn't explain further. She didn't need to. That day, the cops found us. Later, I'd learned that my parents had triggered an Amber Alert almost immediately. That someone in the parking lot remembered seeing me with her. That the store had surveillance and the plate of her car was clear as day. She hadn't even tried to hide it. When the cops pulled her over, I was asleep in the back seat. She was driving to a gas station. She didn't resist, didn't cry, just stepped out and said, "He's okay." I don't remember the drive back. I don't remember the exact moment I saw my mom and dad again. I remember the blue flashing lights. I remember one of the officers giving me a blanket and asking if I wanted juice. I said yes, even though I wasn't thirsty. I didn't know how to say anything else. They let her go. I found out years later she had a documented mental illness. She was evaluated, hospitalized, then released. They didn't press charges, not in the way I thought they would. Something about diminished capacity, about how she believed I was her child. She passed away later that same year. My mom told me gently. She said it wasn't my fault, that some people hurt because something inside them gets twisted, that she wasn't evil, just broken. I still remember her face, not with fear, just confusion. She didn't look like someone who wanted to hurt anyone. She looked like someone who'd been alone for a long time. People think kidnappings are dark vans, men in ski masks, violent grabs and rope. Mine wasn't that. Mine was quiet, casual. She held my hand like she cared. And maybe, in her way, she did. But that doesn't make it okay. To this day, I can't walk through a Walmart without glancing around, without thinking about how easy it was, how no one stopped us, how calm she was, and how close I came to never coming back. I don't usually go to Walmart, not because I think I'm better than it or anything. It's just never been my go-to. But last March, during a stretch of long shifts at the auto shop, I hit a point where I couldn't put it off any longer. I was out of just about everything. Paper towels, coffee, lunch stuff, and I couldn't stomach the idea of working another greasy 12-hour day without my usual coffee thermos and ham sandwich. My name's Brendan, by the way. I live just outside of Denton, Texas. Not quite the middle of nowhere, but you can definitely drive a few miles in the wrong direction and end up at a gas station with no cell signal and no indoor plumbing. That night, I just clocked out at 9:45 p.m. I smelled like grease and rubber and had a headache from running diagnostics all day. Most stores in my area close early, but the Walmart a few exits down off, 35, is open 24/7. So I figured I'd suck it up and stop by. Just in and out, no wandering. Grab what I need, hit self-checkout, and bounce. The parking lot was emptier than I expected. That was the first thing. It was a weekday, sure, but even at 10 p.m., there's usually at least a few people loading up their trunks. This time, just a handful of cars scattered across the huge lot. All the lights were on overhead, but that just made the emptiness feel louder, somehow. I parked up close, near the garden center entrance, which was closed off with a security chain. Only the main entrance was open, and as I walked toward it, I noticed one of the automatic doors was propped open with a floor wedge. That was weird too. Not alarming, just off. There was no greeter at the door, just a radio playing quietly from somewhere behind customer service, which was dark. The air inside felt still, like the store had been closed but someone forgot to lock it. I grabbed a card. It squeaked on one like they always do, and I started toward the front left side of the store where I knew the cleaning supplies were. That's when I noticed the stockers. There were only 2 of them that I could see. One was unloading boxes near the pharmacy. The other was halfway down the canned goods aisle. They weren't wearing the usual blue vests, just black hoodies and jeans. At first, I figured they were doing overnight stocking and just hadn't changed into the uniform. But something about the way they moved felt disconnected. Like they weren't really there to do a job. More like they were just existing in the space, slowly shifting things around for the sake of movement. I ignored the feeling and kept going. The layout of the store was mostly what I remembered, but some of the signage was off. Like the overhead aisle labels had typos. Cereal and bread instead of bread. Towel, paper, just lazy stuff. I figured maybe they were replacing signs, and this was temporary. Still, it added to the feeling that the whole place was being held together with tape. I made my way through the empty aisles, grabbing what I needed. Cleaning spray, a pack of paper towels, a loaf of bread. The shelves were stocked, but a lot of items looked like knockoffs. Labels I didn't recognize, weird fonts, off-brand packaging that looked like a bootleg version of a familiar logo. Like Chef Boyardee with 1D. I got to the refrigerated section in the back, just trying to find sliced turkey and orange juice, when I noticed a guy standing completely still in front of the dairy case. He was tall, late 50s maybe, with a denim jacket and a backwards cap, just staring at the milk like he was hypnotized. I paused. Not long, just enough to glance at him. He didn't blink, didn't move. I kept walking. At the next aisle, I looked back, and he was gone. I turned the corner and caught sight of him again, this time one aisle over, standing by the frozen pizzas. Same stance, still not moving. I didn't make eye contact. I picked up the pace, circled back toward the snacks aisle, and noticed something else. My cart was missing. I had left it halfway down the cereal row while I doubled back to check for deli mustard. Now it was gone. Not stolen, just gone. I scanned the area. Empty aisle. I walked a few feet forward and heard the squeak. That one bad wheel, distinctive as hell, echoing faintly from somewhere nearby. Then I saw it. My cart, turning a corner up ahead on its own. I don't know how to explain it. There was no one pushing it. It didn't roll like it was coasting. It turned the corner deliberately. I didn't follow. I stood frozen for a few seconds, trying to wrap my head around what I'd seen. It was probably someone messing with me. Some late night prank, but that didn't track either. No laughter, no footsteps, just that quiet, hollow echo of a squeaky wheel. I turned around and started walking back toward the front. That's when the lights above me dimmed. Not a full blackout, just a flicker like a brownout. I paused, looked up, and when I looked back down, the man in the denim jacket was standing at the end of the aisle. Closer now, still not blinking. Still not moving. I turned and walked fast. Not a full run. I didn't want to look paranoid, but fast enough that I was breathing heavier by the time I got to the self-checkout area. There was no one there. Not the woman who'd been stacking soda earlier. Not the guy in the hoodie. No other shoppers. I stood there for a second, unsure what to do. My arms were full, but I didn't feel like setting anything down. I looked at the exit. The same wedge was still there, holding the door open. That's when I dropped everything and just left. No checkout, no receipt. Just walked straight through the door and out into the lot. My car was in the same spot, but now there was a different car parked right next to it. Black sedan, tinted windows, engine off. I got in my car fast and locked the doors. As I started the ignition, I looked over, and I swear, the guy in the denim jacket was sitting in the passenger seat of the black car, staring. I backed out and drove without looking back. When I got home, I didn't say anything to anyone. I showered, made a sandwich from what little I had left in the fridge, and tried to go to sleep. But I kept thinking about it. The misspelled signs, the off-brand products, the silence, the guy by the milk who never moved. The next day, I swung by the same area on my way home from work. I wanted to see it again in the daylight. The parking lot was full this time. Normal people, kids screaming about toys, a guy selling roses from a bucket. But when I walked inside, everything looked normal. The signs were spelled correctly. The aisles were bright. The same cereal labels I remembered from years ago. I asked the greeter, this time a friendly-looking woman in her 60s, if they were open 24 hours. She shook her head. No, sir. Haven't been 24/7 since 2020. I paused. Are you sure? I came in around 10 last night. She smiled. Oh, you must be thinking of a different store. We close at 11 now, sharp. I didn't argue. I thanked her and left. I've been to a few Walmarts since, but I haven't gone back to that one. I don't even know what I'd be looking for. Maybe the store I went to wasn't really closed. Maybe I imagined more than I remember. But sometimes when I drive past that exit on I-35, I wonder if anyone else has ever been inside that place at night. If they saw what I did. If they noticed how the signs didn't quite spell things right. And if they ever got their car back. It was just a Tuesday night. One of those boring, uneventful midweek evenings when you realize you're out of almond milk, shampoo, and your last box of microwave rice. I wasn't planning to go out, but it was either that or skip breakfast tomorrow. So I decided to make a quick trip to Walmart before they closed. My name's Natalie. I'm a junior at UNC Charlotte, and I live just off campus in a small townhouse complex with my boyfriend, Darren. Normally we do these late errands together, but he had a group meeting running long, and I figured I could knock this out in 15 minutes tops. I didn't feel weird going alone. This is my city, my store. I've shopped here for years and nothing's ever happened. Until now. I got there around 8:40. The sun had already dipped, but it wasn't totally dark yet. The sky was that faded blue-purple you only get in southern towns when the humidity starts to cool. The parking lot wasn't busy. A few cars scattered around, a couple of carts loose near the cart return. Nothing out of the ordinary. I threw on my hoodie, locked my car, and went inside. I grabbed a small cart and headed for the back of the store where the groceries were. That's when I first noticed him. He looked maybe early 40s. Ball cap, dark red windbreaker jeans. Nothing flashy, but something about the way he glanced at me caught my attention. It wasn't a normal look. It was sharp, like he was scanning me, not just seeing me. I passed him in one of the center aisles and kept walking. I didn't think much of it until I noticed him again 2 aisles over. He was pretending to look at cereal, but I could see he wasn't really focused on anything. I moved to the next row and took a turn toward the dairy section. A moment later, he was behind me again, this time a little closer. I told myself I was just being paranoid. It's a big store, people crisscross aisles all the time. Maybe he's just looking for something. Still, I didn't like the feeling that was forming in my stomach. I started walking faster. I turned into the home goods section, planning to grab some candles. Darren loves the vanilla birch ones, and I figured I'd surprise him. I was halfway down the candle aisle when I saw him again. This time at the end of the row, standing still, phone in hand. He wasn't pretending to shop anymore. He was just watching. I turned away quickly and acted like I hadn't seen him. As I turned to leave the aisle, I noticed 2 more men off to the left. One wore a navy zip-up, the other a gray flannel. They weren't looking at me directly, but both were standing still, holding their phones, barely moving. Neither had a card. It's weird how your brain tries to downplay things in real time. I thought maybe they were together, maybe just waiting on someone. But something about the silence between them made my skin crawl. 3 grown men, spread out but clearly aware of each other, all pretending to be separate while still texting constantly. I left the candle aisle and started walking toward the front of the store, fast. As I passed the seasonal section, I turned slightly and caught a glimpse of the guy in the red jacket again. He was walking parallel to me on the other side of the display racks. I cut right into the electronics department and beeline to the front case, acting like I was interested in some earbuds behind glass. There was a young Walmart associate stocking nearby, maybe 20 or so. I smiled at him and asked if he could help me check the price on one of the wireless sets. Really, I just wanted someone beside me. While he opened the case and explained features I didn't care about, I kept my eyes on the reflections in the glass. The man in the red jacket had stopped just at the corner of electronics. The two others stood nearby, not talking, not shopping, just watching and texting. Eventually, I thanked the associate and said I needed to check with my boyfriend before deciding. He nodded and went back to restocking. As soon as he turned, I pulled out my phone and texted Darren. "Where are you?" He replied seconds later, "Candle aisle. Wasn't that where you said you'd be?" I didn't want to tip off the guys by running. I walked quickly, head down, pretending to browse as I cut across toys and over to the main walkway. The entire time, I could feel them shifting in the periphery. One of them followed loosely, just far enough to keep me in sight without seeming obvious. When I finally saw Darren standing by the candles, scrolling his phone, I nearly broke into a jog. I slipped my arm through his and whispered, "I think I'm being followed." 3 guys, red jacket, gray flannel, navy hoodie. Been watching me and texting. Haven't bought anything. Darren turned casually to look as I whispered the description. His body tensed. "Where are they now?" "Back in electronics," I said. Or at least they were. We walked slowly toward the checkout near pharmacy. Darren didn't say much, just kept glancing behind us. We picked a register with a line and waited our turn. Then I saw him again, the man in the gray flannel. He had broken from electronics and was walking directly toward us. Fast. No cart, no basket, just his phone in his hand. His face was dead neutral, like he was just focused on a screen, but his pace was deliberate, too fast to be casual. I nudged Darren without saying a word. He looked up, caught sight of the guy, and immediately stepped behind me, put his arm across my shoulder. We were standing one in front of the other, like a protective shield. The man in gray slowed down just as he got close, slid in the line behind us, closer than anyone should stand to a stranger. Darren turned around slowly and stared him down. The man in gray noticed. After about 3 seconds of awkward stillness, he stepped out of line, turned around, and drifted toward a nearby battery display, pretending to be interested. Again, we finished paying for our stuff and walked toward the doors. I didn't look back until we got outside. That's when I saw the man in the red jacket step out behind us, scanning the parking lot, texting furiously. The guy in gray followed a few seconds later, looking left and right like he was searching for someone. Neither had purchased a thing. I pointed discreetly as Darren unlocked the car. "That's them," I whispered. He didn't reply. He just opened the door, made sure I was inside, and then tossed our bag in the back seat. Before he got in, he turned around and made direct eye contact with the guy in gray, who immediately turned away and started walking back toward the entrance. We drove home in silence for a while. It wasn't until we were halfway down 485 that Darren finally said, "You weren't being paranoid." I nodded. "I know. I still don't know what they were trying to do. Maybe it was nothing, but maybe it was something. The way they coordinated, stayed quiet, and never bought anything made me think of the stories I've heard about people being tracked, followed, sometimes worse. After that night, I don't shop alone anymore. I don't care if it sounds dramatic. I trust my gut now, because there's no such thing as too careful. Not anymore."